This book was found in the public domain, public access. No copyright infringement was intended or intentional. This book is titled Angels of Deceit, The Masterminds Behind Religious Deception by Richard Lee and Ed Hinson. And there's a quote here. To all who are sincerely seeking the light of the truth, that they may not be deceived. Some scriptural verses here, biblical verses. The Spirit clearly says that in later times some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teachings come through hypocritical liars whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron. 1 Timothy 4:1 and 2. For such men are false prophets, deceitful workmen, masquerading as apostles of Christ, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. 2 Corinthians 11:13 and 14. Preface. This is a book about the dangers of false religion. It is also about the spiritual conflict that goes on behind the scenes of the human struggle with false prophets, extremist cults and fanatical leaders. It is the author's hope that this study will remind the reader that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. So you got to watch out for these devils, these demons, the devil, and also those minions or agents of the world, the powers that be, and run the system, etc., etc. And that's from Ephesians 6:12. People do not join religious cults because they want to believe a lie. They are deceived into believing lies to be truth. In fact, most cultists are sincerely seeking the truth, but they are looking in all the wrong places. Their search for meaning and significance has led them into the snare of the devil and his angels. It is the author's prayer, and also our prayer, that this study will help you understand the cultic mindset and how to avoid it. Once an individual starts down the wrong road, he or she is going to end up in the wrong place. Even well-meaning Christians at times border on cultic tendencies. That's why you need to recognize the marks of the cults and know how to escape back into the truth. 10 million Americans are reportedly members of religious cults. By sheer numerical probability, it is highly likely that you will have a personal encounter with the cults. It is very possible that a member of your family will be deceived and taken in by a religious cult. Therefore, you need to know as much as you can about the cults and what they believe. By definition, a cult is a religious group that claims special revelation from God. Usually it's by a person leading them. It's one overall leader, and they're the members of it under him. So it's called a cult. Theologically, a cult is a group that perverts and distorts the biblical doctrines of historic Christianity. Sociologically, a cult is a religious group that tends to isolate itself from other religious bodies. Such cults often become extreme in their beliefs and practices. This is a group that's not following the normal, not conforming to the common or the local churches, etc. practices. The Bible predicts that false prophets will multiply in the last days before the return of Christ. The scripture says, "For the time will come when men will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths." 2 Timothy 4:3-4. The authors believed that that day is upon us now. For the past 150 years, one false prophet after another has arisen. Cult after cult has been formed, and there is no end in sight. Modern Americans, like the ancient Athenians, seem content to listen to one babbler after another in their search for truth. But a century and a half of cultural explosion has left America, or American religion, splintered into hundreds of factions of error and untruth. It is time to call America and the world back to God by calling her people back to the Bible. Only in the time-honoured truths of Scripture will we ever find the spiritual light we seek. It is in the pages of God's revealed Word that we will find the answers to life's greatest questions. we recommend it's better to. Okay, we are the Ministry of the Real Truth, a YouTube channel. We are a registered ministry, etc., etc. To listen to what we have to say, what we bring to you, because all that we bring to you is from the original, ancient, very old Tab Ashrit, Aramaic, the old tongue, the old scribal language of God, that which He spoke to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, the Lishana Atik Zapraya, the Old Testament manuscripts, and also the Galilean Aramaic New Testament manuscripts, those of which Thomas handed over to the Apostolic Church of the East, which he founded, along with the help of Peter, Bartholomew, Thaddeus or Addai, Mari, M-A-R-I, of the 70. These are probably the 70 disciples that followed Jesus, etc., around where they went. And Bartholomew in the 1st to 2nd century, he gave the text to the appointed priests of this church, as well as teaching them what Christ instructed them to do as a church, and then they had to do that, pass it on to the next priest, the next priest, the next priest, down through the centuries. He gave those texts of what the Christ actually said, did, and the miracles, etc., to them. They were being persecuted by Emperor Constantine, who wanted those texts once he found out that they were the actual sayings of Jesus, teachings of Jesus, and he had his imperial Roman Catholic Church, or Roman Church, state church, which is a Christian mix. He goes pagan, Christian, like they'd be into Mithra, Greek gods, Roman gods, etc., etc., behind the scenes. So it was a Christian pagan mix at the time. So he wanted those. He would have destroyed the people that possessed them, and so forth. Eventually the church was destroyed in the 13th century, and they went through a lot of persecution, martyrdom, etc., all around the world as they fled and tried to settle somewhere. Up to this very day in Syria, they're still getting persecuted, and so forth. So this Aramaic speaking translator, Victor N. Alexander from Mesopotamia, Syria, bought a Bible format, or Bible formatted copy of these original manuscripts from a high priest of the Apostolic Church, and then he translated all into the nearest English equivalent using a certain method, using the root words of the modern Aramaic, which are similar, or if not the same, to the words in the old Tab Ashrit, Galilean Aramaic, and so forth, to translate all into the nearest English equivalent. This guy's had about 20 to 30 years experience doing that. We usually look at his website. It was downed, so we revived it, we resurrected it, and that's where we are bringing the original ancient Old Testament manuscript scriptures and the Galilean Aramaic New Testament scriptures from, to all of you, so that you will know the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but that truth. We're not coming at you with hype, fluff, or other BS. Okay? And we have a policy in place, as we always state. Honesty is our best policy. But then again, remember, we are human. We're not robots. We're not AI or anything like that. We are prone to making mistakes. Okay? We will correct those as they come to us, or if somebody brings them to us maturely or nicely, and we will credit them in the comments, etc. So this is what we do. Okay, we're trying to make people wake up and realize the truth in these 800 BCE hand copied Old Testament manuscripts by scribes and monks in Urhai, Edessa, or Urfa in Arabic, modern Turkey. Okay? Today's modern Turkey. That's what we're trying to do, make people aware of that. In the actual manuscripts, Galilean Aramaic manuscripts translated into English. So we are not about trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, and pull a fast one for a buck, or this sort of stuff. People come at us and say this, that, you're this and that. Well, it's not true. But as we see, we are prone to making mistakes because we are human. Remember the old bard, William Shakespeare, stated, and we quote, "To err is human, but to forgive is divine." We're not here to play around and pull the wool over your eyes. even though people taunt us, all that sort of stuff. Okay, we try to keep a civil tongue, as the scripture says. Okay, practice controlling your tongue, your mouth. Okay, think of it this way: if you come at us with nasty retorts and call us this, call us that, insult us, expect to get the same. Not that we're going to do it, but what the scripture says is if you're going to treat people like that, expect to be treated back like that. Okay, we're not into that. We have been told by one of our relatives that we are the most calm people that we've ever met. It takes a lot to rile us. Okay, so please don't go there. We're not into that. Happy is what it's all about, right? Okay. But remember, if you do that to us, expect it to be done to you, or someone else will do that to you, right? You treat people the way that you want to be treated. Okay. So here is the contents page. The process of spiritual deception, the masters of deception, those who are behind all of that deception. And it looks like there's different people here. Edgar Casey, L. Ron Hubbard, a couple of yogis, Charles T. Russell, and so forth. This one here must be Sun Myung Moon. That must be the Moonies. Okay. David Koresh, Jim Jones, etc. The process of spiritual deception. Their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools. Romans 1:21-22. Falling into the darkness, the consequences of false religion. And this is some sort of example here. I just knew he was God's messenger. Kelly kept saying his preaching was so powerful and convincing. It was like he was an angel of God, she insisted. She joined their Bible study group searching for the truth. Dave added, he was really burned out in secularism in his college classes. He thought this would help him spiritually. He always felt uncomfortable with the whole thing. Chris injected. It was like you could sense something was wrong, but you couldn't explain it to anyone else. Kelly, Dave and Chris were discussing the experiences in the religious cult they had joined while they were students at the University of Illinois, USA. Each one had come from a different background and each got hooked in a different way. Dave had attended a church as a youngster but had drifted away during his high school years. He knew something was missing in his life, but he didn't know where to turn to find it. Kelly was a professing and active Christian. She thought she was just getting into another youth group. Chris was a skeptic, but an honest one. He appreciated the group's willingness to discuss religious issues and respond to his questions, or his many questions. But in time, each of the three students realized there was extremist tendencies among the leaders. Strict discipline, rigid schedules, and long sermons were a constant routine. They had little time for their studies, their personal lives, or their parents. Kelly began to feel uncomfortable when the group constantly discouraged her from going home on the weekends. All that talk of us being a family makes me miss my real family, she said. But whenever I wanted to go home, even for a few days, they tried to keep me so busy I wouldn't have time to go. I got real concerned, Dave admitted, when they kept talking about defending themselves from government intrusions. When one of the leaders told me that he had brought a gun, I knew it was time to leave. But when they realised I might go, they finally put the pressure on me to stay. I finally realised they weren't really answering my questions, Chris observed. We had lengthy discussion, but they always turned into indoctrination sessions. I soon found myself accepting their beliefs because I was tired of arguing with them. I guess I caved in to peer pressure and didn't even notice it. Kelly, Dave and Chris were fortunate. They got out before it was too late. They had fallen into one of the hundreds of smaller cult groups that exist in America today. Probably around the world as well. The group sounded Christian, studied the Bible and talked about God, so each of the three assumed it was legitimate. We sang and prayed a lot, Kelly added. It seemed like one big spiritual family, but it almost turned into one big nightmare. All three students had been drawn into the Christian Vanguard, a neo-Nazi cult, masquerading as a campus Bible study at the University of Illinois. They were all from the St. Louis, Missouri area and later attended Missouri Baptist College, where the editor was teaching at the time. Their stories are not unlike those of multiple or multiply thousands of others. They were sincere people seeking the truth, but caught in one of Satan's greatest deceptions, false religion. Masters of deceit. The Bible describes Satan as the father of lies, John 8:44. He is pictured in Scripture as the ultimate deceiver. His name means accuser, and he is depicted as the accuser of God and his people, Revelations 12:10. He is opposed to God and seeks to alienate men from the truth. Yeah, the devil and his minions, they hate humans. Yeah, inhuman creatures. Right? They really hate us. It's in Revelations, book of Revelations. He is opposed to God and seeks to alienate men from the truth. He misled the fallen angels, Matthew 25:41, Revelations 12:4. He tempts men and women to sin against God's laws, Genesis 3:1, 1-13, 1 Timothy 6:9. He denies and rejects the truth of God and deceives those who perish without God, 2 Thessalonians 2:10. Ultimately, he inspires or encourages the false prophets and the very spirit of Antichrist, 1 John 2:18-23. The Bible clearly warns that in the last days people will abandon the faith and follow deceiving, this is from KJV, seducing spirits and things, KJV, doctrines taught by demons, 1 Timothy 4:1. These false teachings will come through hypocritical liars whose minds have been captured by Satan's lies, 1 Timothy 4:2. Thus the process of spiritual deception is clearly outlined in Scripture. Okay, it all comes from Satan, the father of lies. That's their master. The demons, doctrines of devils, and then the false teachers, angels of deceit, that pass them on, right, to the people. Okay, you still have to be careful of your modern Americanized English Bible versions. They are not from the original manuscripts as they claim in the beginning of your modern Bibles. They say, oh, this is from the original manuscripts, etc., etc. Probably from the original Greek, or what's said to be the original Greek, the Septuagint, LXX, or something like that. The Greek original, but you have to be aware of that. We're not going to go into that deeply at this point, but you just have to be careful of those ones. The term angel, Greek, angelos, means messenger. God's angels are his divine messengers, Hebrews 1:14. We just check that again, see if we haven't missed anything out. Okay. The term angel, Greek, angelos, means messenger. God's angels are his divine messengers, Hebrews 1:14, Revelations 1:1. And his true prophets and preachers are called the angels of the churches. Churches at Sardis, Ephesus, etc. Right? In Revelations 2:1, 8:12, 18:3, 1, 7:14. By contrast, Satan is pictured as a fallen angel, the leader of other fallen angels, who deceives the whole world, Revelations 12:9. Supposedly in Judaism, we came across a rabbi, a French accented rabbi, that says, how can an angel be created to do God's will and then turn around and do the opposite? Not possible. So they reckon, well, this one compared Satan to Willy Wonka. Gene Wilder, the original Willy Wonka, where he had that assistant Wilkerson, I think his name was, who used to whisper in the child's ear that got the golden ticket to get him everlasting gobstopper or something like that, and then he'd reward them or something like that. He turned out to be associated with Willy Wonka. He was actually his right hand man. Okay? And they thought he was this evil man, trying to steal from the competition, all that sort of stuff. But Wonka said, no, he works for me. So that's how this French accented rabbi was saying you can compare him to that Wilkerson in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the original Gene Wilder one. So again he said, how can an angel created by God turn around and do the opposite to what he was created for? Okay, so the devil is revealed as the ultimate power behind the Antichrist and the false prophet who deceives mankind with false religion, Revelation 13:14. Thus the messengers, angels of deceit, are Satan-inspired false prophets and teachers whose messages are the very spirit of Antichrist, those who are against the Christ. They don't believe in him. They rejected him. 1 John 2:18. A century ago, A.T. Pearson, a Bible teacher who often spoke for Charles Spurgeon at the Metropolitan Tabernacle in London, wrote, "Evil spirits acquire their greatest power from their subtlety." Okay, you got their Antichrist, one word, and you also got the Antichrist, or Antichrist, anti-gap, or space, Christ, okay? The Antichrist is the one that he poses as the Christ, he's a fake Christ, etc., etc. Then you have the Antichrist, which is those who reject the Christ. They don't follow the Christ. They don't believe he is the Son of God, or God's Son. Okay, you've got to make a distinction between the two words. Okay, because anti means counterfeit in the Greek, or another, a replacement, or a fake. A century ago, A.T. Pearson, the Bible teacher who often spoke for Charles Spurgeon at the Metropolitan Tabernacle in London, wrote, "Evil spirits acquire their greatest power from their subtlety. They are masters of the art of deception and aim to counterfeit that which is good rather than suggest what is obviously and wholly evil, or completely evil, or totally evil. The process of deception. The lure of false doctrine is that it presents itself as the truth. It appears as a corrective measure to established doctrine. It is propagated by those who are certain they have discovered some new revelation of truth or a better interpretation of old established truth." Okay, that's not us, the Ministry of the Truth. And we can verify that. Because these ancient manuscripts have been translated by a native-born Aramaic speaking translator from Mesopotamia, Syria. And his sources are of the Apostolic Church of the East. So we're not pulling the wool over anyone's eyes, neither is he, as many have claimed. The lure of false doctrine is that it presents itself as the truth. It appears as a corrective measure to establish doctrine. It is propagated by those who are certain they have discovered some new revelation of truth or a better interpretation of old established truth. Either way, they are convinced that they are right and everyone else is wrong. And we may appear that way, but what we're actually doing is looking at them, and we're listening to them. When they say they have facts, we establish the facts. When they say, "Oh, here's the evidence," well, we go look at the evidence, trying to find the evidence that proves itself evident without human interjection or someone messing with it, altering it, changing it, tampering with it. Okay, then we look at the scribes, the monks, the ancient scribes, monks, authors, etc., modern day authors, to see if they're irrefutable, infallible, because if they are proven that way, then their writings should be the same. Satan's oldest trick is that to convince people that they are right and everyone else is wrong. "Oh, you're a Seventh-day Adventist. Oh, you're of the devil. Oh, you're a Protestant. You're of the devil. Oh, you're a Roman Catholic. You're of the devil." Well, that sort of stuff, right? "You're a Jehovah's Witness. You're a devil. You're from Satan." We only have the truth, not you. We have the KJV, etc., etc. Unless they can verify that Russell, etc., from Freemasonic, and they deliberately gave a false translation, all that sort of stuff. Satan appeals to our self-conceit and leads us into self-deceit. When he first approached Eve, Satan questioned the integrity of God's command and appealed to her selfish desire to be like God. Well, it sounded appealing, didn't it, to her? You will know as God knows. He hit her with a truth, but it was a lie. Okay? Deceptive. It was that same desire that had led to his fall in the first place, and there is something selfish enough in all of us to want to believe that we can know what no one else knows. C.S. Lewis said what Satan puts in the heads of our remote ancestors, or what he put in the heads of our remote ancestors, was the idea that they could be like gods. And out of that hopeless attempt has come nearly all that we call human history. The long terrible story of man trying to find something other than God which will make him happy. The irony of self-deception is that it arises from our own self-conceit. One does not have to look hard to find expressions of self-centeredness in most cult leaders. Father Divine said he was God. David Koresh claimed to be Jesus Christ. Sun Myung Moon says he is Lord of the universe. Joseph Smith claimed to receive angelic revelations. Mary Baker Eddy believed her book, Key to the Scriptures, was inspired of God. Herbert W. Armstrong, yes, we've read about that guy. See, what we do, we read all about these people and we look behind the scenes. It's called investigative journalism. You find the dirt on these people. You're not doing it deliberately. You just go, well, what could this person actually have been like behind the scenes? A lot of people do it, not realising that's what they're doing. Yeah? Investigative journalism. Herbert W. Armstrong claimed his church was the only one on earth proclaiming the very same gospel that Jesus taught and proclaimed. Well, I don't think so, because he'd have to have the Galilean Aramaic New Testament manuscripts translated into English to know that, right? We read about this guy who was either beating on his niece or abusing her, or one of his daughters or something like that. Go check it out. Look at Herbert W. Armstrong and his history. The process of deception works like this, and here's an example. Self-conceit, self-deceit. I'm the special messenger of God. I alone have discovered the truth. Nobody else has it. I'm the chosen one. I'm the prophet. There's so many deceptive ones out there, like saying, no, it was no baptism of Christ. Okay, it worked like this, because I know, because I went through it. This is what this guy was saying from Africa. Not too sure which actually part of Africa it was from. Let's say Nigeria or something like that. He says, no, baptism is when you go out in the rain and God wets you. That's baptism, and all this sort of false claims.